Greetings, Internet! In this episode of From the Basement, we're going to take a look at a technique that you can use to lock out your quest from anybody that does not have the code. Now, why would you want to lock people out from your quest? There's two primary reasons for this. The first reason would be to enforce players to do your quests in the order you want them to do them. So if you've got a campaign, you've got 3 quests in there, there's nothing in the system right now that forces players to do the quests 1, then 2, then 3. They can do them in any order they want. So maybe you want to prevent that and say provide a code in quest 1 that they use to unlock quest 2 and a code in quest 2 to unlock quest 3. The other reason why you would want to lock out a quest is that you are currently working on it. It's not done yet, but you want to do a playthrough in a group for maybe balancing issues. You want to get friends' feedback on it. For whatever reason, you want to publish it, but you don't want people that you don't know rating it yet. You can put a lock on it so that way people cannot enter the quest without the code. If you use this technique, I implore you, please do not abuse it. It can be a powerful trolling tool to allow someone to get through to the end and not be able to complete the quest. If you are going to lock it, please lock it right at the very start. Okay, so what does this rely on? This relies on the AND logic of reaching different conversation points and uses some redirect tricks that we saw in the previous video to make the combinations disappear after you've made your choice. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide this anvil. This anvil here is a quest objective. If we come over here, look at the story, we can see there's the use that thing anvil. So when we use that, that completes this mission and we'll get our treasure chest. Now, you can't hide this. Anything that is associated with a story objective, that is associated on the storyboard, will be forcibly turned visible when you are on that quest objective. You have no control over this. You cannot alter this. Instead, what you can do is you can make that quest objective unreachable. So I've got this sarcophagus here that I am going to put over the anvil. When I try to go into the game now, I'm not going to be able to use it. I'm not going to have a line of sight. The game will not let me activate it. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to have 3 crystals in total over here with conversation elements on them, 1, 2, 3, and I've got to enter in the correct code, which will then make the crypt disappear. And I'm going to shift things around like this because otherwise it's kind of hard to select a crypt, so I'm going to leave it off to the side here until we get things set up. So let's get the conversation set up on this first crystal because there's interesting things happen when you copy objects with conversations. So I'm going to bring this up, contact, come into Advanced Dialogue Editor, and you'll probably want, again, we're going to use temporary placeholder text here to make it clear as to which, oops, not code 1, digit 1. You know, which element are we looking at here? And I'm going to have 3 responses. 1, 2, 3. Now you're not limited to 3 options. What I'm going to show, 3 digits with 3 possible responses. That gives you a combination of 3 times 3 times 3, or 27 possible combinations. Honestly, that's a lot. No one's really going to take the time to get through that. If you're really paranoid, you can add an extra digit or add an extra choice. Even with just 4 choices, 3 digits, you would have 4 times 4 times 4, or 64 possible combinations. Since the player is going to have to abandon this quest and re-enter it if they get it wrong, that's a pretty solid barrier there to people guessing. Alright, so now we need to come up with the dialogue prompts here. And again, I'm going to say D1, 1, D1, 2, and D1, 3. I am doing this to make it really, really clear as to which one I am working with here. Now, I'm going to want this to disappear. I'm going to want this crystal to disappear once I choose an option. Again, I can't say, disappear when this is reached, this is reached, this is reached, because remember that's an AND combination. Can't do that. So we'll add in an extra response here. Oops, take caps lock off. Done. And we will redirect. Remember, mouse over the arrow, click and hold, drag, click and hold, drag. Now I can use this as my response, and D1, done. And now I can switch back over here, grab my crystal, and say disappear when dialog prompt reached, digit 1, because it's my only choice right now, and that option there, D1, done. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate this object, so duplicate, duplicate. So now I've got 3 crystals. And I should probably also name my crystals so that way the player can easily see which crystal is which. Now something interesting happened here. The conversations got duplicated. We go to our dialogue trees and we look at our dialogues. Notice now I have 3 copies of this conversation. However, if I come here and I look at the crystals, you can't really tell it, but they're all pointing to the original conversation. I can prove this by going into digit 2's conversation, advanced dialogue editor, and change the appropriate 1s to 2s. And then we'll go back and look at our object in the map. And of course. So we've gotten everything changed over to 2s. Now let's take a look at the map. Whoops, we're still disappearing when D1 done has been reached. And that's not what we want. When you duplicate an object that has a conversation, it will duplicate that conversation, but it won't update the links. So all the links will still be pointing towards the original conversation, which can create some really interesting weirdness of having multiple conversations that things are doing, but only one of them actually does things, and it's weird. It's odd. You got to be aware of that. So it's easily enough fixed, and this is why I advocate working with placeholder text until your logic is done, and then going back through and replacing it with your story text. So I'm going to do the same thing over here to this. I'm going to update all my ones, appropriate ones, with 3s. And then update my disappears when to digit 3. Done. So check, this crystal disappears. I'm on crystal digit 1, disappears on D1, digit 2, disappears on D2, digit 3, disappears on D3. Alright, looks good. Now to set up the sarcophagus, I can talk, I promise. We're going to change the disappears when, dialog prompt reach. Now this time we actually do want the AND logic. So I'm going to use the most intelligent combination ever. You use it on your luggage. 1, digit 2, 2, 3. Of course, the true ultimate combination for luggage is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I don't want to go through the extra 2 prompts there. So the only way that this sarcophagus is going to disappear is if we enter in 1, 2, 3 while selecting our conversations on these little nodes here. So let's test it, see this in action. And again, as I said at the start of this video, if you are going to use this technique, please use it responsibly. Do it right up in front of the quest, and put in the quest description that, hey, this has been locked. Make sure that you do quest 1 in the campaign first, or hey, this is locked. Unless you're a friend and you have the code, don't bother taking it. Because you will really drive players away of never wanting to do anything of yours again if you annoy them too badly with this. Okay, so, and I forgot to move the sarcophagus. Alright, well, in this case, I will show you what happens when you fail, since I've got to redo this anyways. So, I do a 2, it disappears. I'll do a 1 on this one, it disappears. I'll do a 3 on this one, it disappears. And lo and behold, the sarcophagus is still there. In the wrong spot, but still there. Return to Foundry. Drag that sucker up on there, and let's try this again. I could have tried to use 3D edit mode to move that over, but I wanted to make sure that everything reset properly. Okay. So now this time I come over here, and I can detect that the anvil's there, but you notice I'm getting an out of line of sight. I can't actually use it. Doesn't matter how I try and mash that F button, it's not going to let me use it. So now let's enter in the correct code. 1, still there. 2, still there. 3, not there. I can now complete the quest. And success. So that's all there is to it. It's just a little bit creative use of conversations, dialogue prompt reached, and a little bit of AND logic. Gives you the ability to lock things. And this doesn't have to be for just the 2 things I mentioned. Puzzles could potentially use this. You've got to enter in the correct combination to unlock the puzzle. Of course, in that scenario, I would recommend not doing the disappearing thing. Now, there is one disadvantage to not having the disappearing act in there, and that is if the player is patient enough to go through and select all conversation prompts, then they pretty much will be guaranteed to activate whatever it is you're trying to activate. So there's some special things there. Maybe you want to use that only for like access to a special extra room or something. I don't know. Just be careful with this, because this can annoy players, but it's a really useful tool, and I hope you guys can get some use out of it. Until next time.